What's up YouTube, Capital G here. Got a couple of cool duels for you guys to check out, including the first duel that is featuring our brand new TCG exclusive archetype, the Time Thieves. These guys came out, well, they're coming out in Savage Strike, and they're XC-based despite the fact that Savage Strike is a synchro set, but they look very promising. This one of the archetypes very similar to Altergeist or Trickstar that is premiering with like 3 incredibly good cards, and usually when you get that, you're thinking, all right, this archetype at least has a little bit of potential where maybe down the line it can be meta. This archetype has an incredibly strong XC monster, which you guys are looking at right there. Redoor has 3 completely different effects. It can take cards from the top of your opponent's deck and attach them as material, and then you can detach and you get really nice effects like a Phoenix Wind Wind Blast. You get one that lets you draw a card. It becomes also a Rescue Rabbit, or excuse me, a Wind Up Rabbit, where it can kind of banish itself to dodge your opponent's targeting effects. This deck does have a Rescue Rabbit in here, and there's a Stratos, so the deck is it's looking very promising right now. Now, people are running PKs in the deck because the PK monsters have natural synergy. All of this stuff is dark, so it makes sense going to Rusty Bardique and whatnot. But also, the PK monsters, they start as level 3s. You can bring them back from Breaksword, then they become level 4s, so then you can go into your Time Thief XC monster. So it just makes a lot of sense. Plus, the Phantom Knights of Brigadine is also a level 4, so all this stuff just has synergy with each other. Effect Veiler on Armageddon Knight, rest in peace, Orcus. Then, he's going to be able to get both of this PK monsters on the board pretty easily. He goes into the Breaksword, and this is exactly what I was talking about. Your 2 PK monsters both summon themselves back, but guess what? They're now level 4s, so you can go straight into your Time Thief XC monster, and it was relatively easy. I mean, you don't really have to waste any energy. You can get that on board. He's going to attack directly, and he's actually going to use the Wind Up Rabbit effect. Now, the reason he wants to do that, he wants to bring it back with no XC materials, so he can do this. He can rake up straight into Azathoth, basically skipping your opponent's turn. Ain't no monster effects happening right now. People have started to say this. I think Farf was like one of the first YouTubers to say Azathoth needs to be banned, because haven't you guys noticed? I mean, Lunalights do this, and now Time Thieves can do, like, people are summoning Azathoth on their opponent's turn like way too much. If it's not Azathoth, then it's freaking True King of all calamities. But yeah, these dark plays are definitely real. Now, the deck also has a bunch of other utility cards. There's a card that's very similar to Zodiac. Oh man, what was the Zodiac card that lets you attach a material straight from your deck? Because this archetype has that, and it's pretty cool because it can put a trap on your guy or a spell card so that you can get those other effects. Galatea is going to meet that Fog Blade, so no effect for you, Galatea. And I think he's going to go for Long Girsu, basically to try to get rid of the Azathoth. This it's linked up, so it's gonna die. He is going to go for the Dear Girsu, and he didn't use the effect, which was a little surprising. Don't know why he didn't use this effect, but whatever. Here's that Rescue Rabbit effect. This guy basically trades himself for 2 monsters, and then you get the Stratos effect. You go straight into the XC. You can attach a material from the deck using the flyback, and man, this deck, once it gets rolling, it is incredibly good. Now that's really just insane, right? The fact that this guy has a quick effect that allows you to put one of your opponent's face-up cards back on their on the top of their deck means he can out pretty much any extra deck monster, because those are always going to be face-ups. Well, if they're a link monster, they're going to be face-up. And it's also an out the floodgates if he's already on the field, or field spells, which is also pretty damn nice. He's going to take his opponent's top card from the deck, and whenever this guy is threatened, he can just kind of get himself off the field, which is really nice. You want to dark hole me? Nah, bro, that's not going to happen. I'm just going to get myself off the field. I'm going to dodge your effect, and then I'm just going to come back. Now, that does leave you open, and his opponent went for Boiled Savage Dragon, so that's like the perfect counter, but it's perfectly all right, because this card right here, their continuous spell, which gives you, I believe, protection. It turns your monsters into I believe Magispectors. Yes, it turns your XC monsters into Magispectors the turn that they were summoned, but it also lets you attack directly with your XC. So if your opponent ever gets low, forget Cowboy for game, doesn't even matter. You can just actually attack them directly. He's sitting on 2400, but I believe he might go ahead and he might attach. Actually, no, he gets to 300 from the Time Thief hack, and he simply attacks his opponent directly for game. So this archetype feels like it has a lot of potential right out the gate. Second duel is actually Fur Hire facing off against Salamangreat, a duel where I would heavily favor Salamangreat. I think it's a tier 1 deck, and it's far superior to Fur Hire, but Fur Hire are going second, and that's how the deck naturally wants to play anyways. Now, I will say this: if you're a Salamangreat player, especially opening with this hand. You gotta be able to win these duels. This is not me playing, by the way, for those of you wondering. I don't run Mirror. I don't think you should run Mirror. I don't think it really adds anything to the deck for the most part. It's a card that a lot of beginning Salamangreat players see, and they think it's kind of good, but then you start playing with it more and more, and you're like, this card's really not that good. But the reason why, if you're a Salamangreat player, you have to win probably 95% of these hands is because, like, you have everything that you want. You have your 2 extenders, you have a great defensive card, you have a card to push your plays through, and you should also end with a Roar, plus you should end with Gazelle back in your hand. These are games where I honestly just look at my hand, I'm like, all right, this game's free. Doesn't matter what deck I'm playing against, you're not going to beat me. But you know, newer players, they will throw games away that they should not. Now, I have no problem with him letting the Ghost Ogre go through. Honestly, I would have let the Ghost Ogre go through too, because I don't really think Ghost Ogre really does anything here. The Phalanx is going to get Sanctuary to your hand regardless, and it's not going to stop you from summoning Gazelle. So the Phalanx is, like, it dying is completely irrelevant in this situation. Special summon Gazelle, probably drop your copy of Roar in the graveyard. Everything he's doing so far is right. Here's where he gets off the path, and what he should have done was he should have discarded Spinny, summoned it from the graveyard, went into Stallion, summoned Jack Jaguar from his deck, linked to into Sunlight Wolf, used Jack Jaguar, putting back the Phalanx in his extra deck. He then would have triggered Sunlight Wolf, added Gazelle back to his hand. I believe he should have link summoned into another copy of Sunlight Wolf. At that point, he would have been able to add this back to his hand, and then he's in really good position. But he actually goes for a weird play, going back for Phalanx. The problem with this play is, and I'll show you the difference, right? So what he does is he uses his Spinny, and he goes into Sunlight Wolf, and then he's going to Reincarnation Link. Again, this is like beginner's mistakes. I can tell that he's new with this deck. The difference between this and the play that I said is, number one, he doesn't get Jack Jaguar in his graveyard, so he just doesn't get that. And number two, he doesn't get the ability to trigger his Sunlight Wolf. So he should actually have Gazelle back in his hand, but he just doesn't. That's just, you know, some people don't know all the combos. Go on Beyond the Duel, guys. You can learn all the Salamangreat combos, and it's still like he's still in a good position. Even with the misplays, it doesn't matter because the deck is good enough to bail him out. He gets the perfect top deck, which is Lady Debug, because now his engine is completely restarted. He can go ahead and get Gazelle, and he should be perfectly fine. Gets the Rage back to his hand. He goes for Transcode Talker, and it looks like he should be able to get Wolf back to his hand. I think that this is a duel where you look at it and you're like, all right, this duel is absolutely free. He has Rage, he's got the Call by the Grave, he has Roar, but guess what his opponent is randomly running in the main deck? His opponent is playing that Red Reboot, 400 life points off. He tries to roar him. Nope, that's gonna be set. He also sets Gift, which another card that I don't think you should run, but to each its own. And you know, for hire, if there's a deck that Salamangreats don't want to play against that you know, is going at you full power, it's probably a deck like for hire, because they can pop your cards, they can draw a bunch of cards, and you can see that they can expand upon the field incredibly fast. I've shown you guys many for hire duels in the past where they're able to drop like 6 monsters turn 1. No Soul Charge, no Monster Born, none of that jazz. They can easily do it. He's gonna banish his opponent's Phalanx. That was incredibly smart, because now Salamangreat player doesn't have any protection, and basically he's at the mercy. And if your opponent makes Boros War Dragon, they are going to be able to OTK you. Puts the Gazelle in defense mode. I'm not sure if Spinny should have been summoned in attack mode. It probably should have been summoned in defense, but he's able to basically just OTK his opponent. Not only does he have a second attack from Boros War Dragon, but then he also has the Lefaro, and he has the Fogo as well. So Salamangreat players, you got to be able to cash these victories. And I feel like I mean, yeah, sometimes this does happen where your opponent has that one oddball card. You're not supposed to generally, especially if it's a game 1, you don't expect to ever see Red Reboot, but sometimes those be the breaks. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed the short duels. If you did, give the video a thumbs up. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on that notification bell for daily videos. And this is just for any of you guys out there who are interested in the deck list. This is what it looks like, and the side deck obviously can be up to you. But yeah, this archetype looks super promising. was saying. You have a whole bunch of level 4 monsters. Everything in the archetype is dark, so Allure of Darkness just kind of makes sense, and it makes sense for the PKs to be ran in here. All of the monsters in this deck can go into the Phantom Knights of Rusty Bardique. As I said before, the PKs, when you summon them from the Phantom Knights of Breaksword, they're level 3s, but then when they come back, they become level 4s. Thus, they make it a lot easier to go into Redoer. And, you know, Redoer seems like a card that you can kind of build a deck around. It seems like this guy is going to be a solid boss monster for some time. There's also the cheeky plays that you can do with the Phantom Knights rank up launch, because the fact that this guy is a rescue or a wind up rabbit, he can come back at any given time with no materials. Thus, you can always have this card live to Azathoth during your opponent's turn. I believe that Azathoth is a condition, so even if your opponent impermanences, I'm pretty sure the Azathoth still goes through, and they can't use monster effects for the rest of the turn. Not sure if you need 3 of him. I think that only time will tell. I guess it depends on how long your duels are going. Maybe you could probably get away with 2 and then run other, you know, supplemental cards. Like maybe I would probably have to find some way of getting like a Burrow card in there or something like that. But you have to understand that this archetype is still, you know, at the time of me recording this video, like 24 hours old. So obviously these are like the first drafts of the decks.